Okay, so this video goes over Chapter 7, Relationships 2. So if you want to follow along with this on page 261, you can. What we'll do is I'll go through this PowerPoint, and then in class we'll have the opportunity to do some of the practice and some of the mastery tests. So if as we go along, if there's some things that you have questions about, just write those questions down and bring them into class. So in the last chapter, Relationships 1, we talked about addition and time words. In this chapter, we're going to talk about three different types of words. Those are illustration, compare and contrast, and cause and effect. Remember, the real reason for you guys to one of the main reasons why you guys want to learn these words from both of the chapters is that these words will highlight to you when you're reading something important. Writers use these words when they want to signal something important in their writing. So it's good to learn these ones. So anyway, illustration. Let's start off with that. So illustration. The word illustration actually also means to draw something. If we look at this example, this is on what's this on? This is on page 262. It says, which of these is easier to read? Anyone can become a safe driver. Do not talk or send text messages on your cell phone. Anyone can become a safe driver. For instance, do not talk or send text messages on your cell phone. So the question is, which one's easy to read? Well, the answer is the second one. And the reason why it's easier to read is that we understand what the relationship is between the two of them. So in the first part, anyone can become a safe driver. That's a statement, but we understand that the second sentence is an example of that statement. So one of the ways to become a safer driver is not to talk or send text messages while you're driving. So on page 262, there's a box there that has some of the common illustration words. In this one, we have, for instance, oops, I'm going to skip through this one. In this one here, we have, for example. But we also have these other ones to illustrate, including such as and once. And we'll talk about the different usages of these when we go over some of the practice in class. Whoops, this one got messed up, but so here we have such as, and here we have for example, and here we have once. All right. So the pattern that we normally use, that we normally see with this is called the definition and example pattern. So that what that means is that we'll start off with a definition, and then we'll be given one or two, sometimes three examples to explain that definition further. So if we look here, this is on page 264. What you should do is just take a moment and organize these in order. Which one is first, which one is second, and which one is third. And what you should do is you look for these transition words, the for example or for instance. And those ones are going to not be the first, but they'd be the second or the third. Okay, so what you should have come up with is that this is the order. So if you were writing down the numbers, it would be 2, 1, 3 in your book. But we have acupuncture as a Chinese medical technique that involves inserting special needs in certain places in the body. That's our definition. When acupuncture is used to kill pain, needles are inserted far from the areas of pain. In one stomach operation, for instance, 4 needles in the patient's outer ears eliminated the pain. So we start off again with the definition, okay, and then we have an explanation, and then we have an example finally. Okay, so that's the pattern that's used with this. So the words are called illustration, but the pattern is the definition and example. Okay, so an important thing to keep in mind is that any time that you see a word that's in bold or italics, most of the time it's a word that is going to be defined. And after those words, you'll often have the verbs is or are or is called or termed or referred to. All of these words signal that you're being given the definition. Okay, so here are some examples. A placebo is a sugar pill without any significant medical properties. Okay, I'm not giving an example, but there's the definition. Hypotheses are predictions stated in a way that allows them to be tested. A low sense of personal worth is what psychologists call negative self-esteem. What you'll notice about that last one is that the order is flipped. So instead of the word coming first, it comes at the end. But we're using the word is again, showing that it's a definition. All right, so then our next one is called the comparison and contrast. So this is over on page 266. These are words that show comparison. So which one of these is easier to read? And this is the bottom of 266. Human infants suck their thumbs, baby elephants suck their trunks. So the second one is just as human infants suck their thumbs, baby elephants suck their trunks. So which is easier to read? Of course, it's the second one with the transition. The reason is that this is showing the similarity between the two. So that just like human babies, infants are babies, suck their thumbs, baby elephants suck their trunks. So it's showing, we're seeing the relationship between the two of these. So we say comparison and contrast. Now, in most English, in just general English, when we're not talking about these words, when we use the word comparison or we use the word compare, what we mean is talking about both similarities and differences. However, in this book, or anytime you're writing a compare-contrast essay, compare or comparison means similarities. Okay, so the comparison words are the words that show the similarities. So in this one, we see a number of words. Do you realize how much we resemble each other? We'll both eat anything. We both like to sleep on furniture, and we're both overweight. So we have resemble and both. All of these ones signal similarities. So on page 267, you have all of these different words. Okay, and again, we'll do some practice in using them in class. So here's some examples. The carpet was so old and faded, it looked like a gray shadow. So in this case, like is there. Parents today often dislike the music their children listen to, just as their own parents dislike the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. So there we have just as. Tattoos, which used to be seen as lower class, are part of our culture today. Likewise, many middle-class people now have body piercing. So there we have likewise. Okay. Now contrast, on the other hand, is different than comparison. So let's look at these two sentences here. And this is on page 268. The weather in Florida is usually wonderful, but the summers are hot and humid. The weather in Florida is usually wonderful. The summers are hot and humid. Which is easier to understand? The first one. They switched it up on us. The reason that it's easier to understand is it tells us the relationship between the two of them. Okay, so it's saying that these two things are opposite. If we don't have the but, we're not sure how the author feels about it. It could be that the author thinks that the hot and humid summers are what make the weather in Florida wonderful. Okay, but shows us that we're showing a contrast. So contrast words means differences. Okay, showing how two things are different. So that's the difference between us. You like to read at meals, and I like to talk. So in this case, we have the word there, differences, showing the differences. Here's a list of the words, and you can see them as well on page 269. And again, we'll review some of this in class. Okay, so here's some examples. Although the movie had an exciting plot, the actors in the lead roles were not very convincing. A laptop computer is convenient and portable. On the other hand, a desktop computer is usually less expensive. Only 10% of the population is left-handed. In contrast, of babies that are born more than 2 months prematurely, 54% are left-handed. Okay. Now we have a couple of different patterns here with the comparison and contrast. The first pattern is comparison, where we're saying A is like B, and the second one is contrast, where we're saying A is different from B. Okay, and this shows how they are similar and then how they are different. So this is on page, what page is this on? So on page 271. So go ahead and pause this and take a second and order these sentences from first to third. Okay, so what you should have come up with was this. So the first thing is the coral snake and the milk snake may look alike, but there are some important differences between. There's an important difference between them. The snakes have similar markings, red, yellow, and black bands. However, the milk snake is harmless, while the coral snake is very poisonous. Okay, so the first sentence is the most general one, the main idea. And then we have words like alike, but, and difference that suggest to us that this is a compare-contrast paragraph. And then we have the words similar, however, and while. The other two sentences do in fact compare and contrast two things. Okay, I'm sorry about all those boxes. They are in the wrong place. Okay, so our last pattern in words that we want to talk about are cause and effect words. So let's take a look at this. Nina cares for elderly parents. She has very little free time. Because Nina cares for her elderly parents, she has very little free time. So we're on page 274 here. So which of those is easier to understand? The second one. And again, the reason it's easier to understand is we understand the relationship between the two. We understand that the reason that she has little free time is because she has to care for her elderly parents. It could be that the author thinks those two things are unrelated, but when the author puts because in that, she makes it very clear what she thinks is the relationship between the two. Okay. So cause and effect have two jobs. Cause means the reason. So cause is what comes before, the reason for something. And effect means the result, meaning why something happened, what happened after it. So the reason I got the promotion is that I always dress for success. You see the dog in the suit. So we're talking about the reason is that the dog dresses for success, and the effect is that he got a promotion, he got a better job. So these are the cause and effect words, okay, and it groups them all together. But as we go through this in class, we'll talk about which ones are actually for cause and which ones are actually for effect. So here's some examples. People eat fewer hamburgers today than they did in the past. Therefore, fast food restaurants have developed new items for their menus. Because roses are considered the flowers of romance, many people give them for Valentine's Day. Digital cameras do not require the use of film. As a result, they become more popular than conventional cameras. Okay? And again, we'll do more in class. Now we have two patterns that we'll see with cause and effect. Sometimes we'll see a cause with a number of different effects. And then other times we'll be talking about one effect but be giving multiple causes to it. So the first one says, why does a behavior or event happen? So this is, we're talking about the effects. Or what are the results of the behavior of a behavior or event. So we're talking about the effect in that case. So go ahead. This is on page, what is this? Page 276. Go ahead and pause this and put these ones in order. Okay, so what you should have come up with was this order. Traffic accidents are more likely to result during evening rush hour. Because drivers are tired at the end of the day, they're not able to respond quickly enough to changes in traffic. Accidents are also caused by speeding as drivers try to get home as quickly as possible. Okay, so in this one we have the word result, we have because, and we also have caused. Okay, so we start off with the result, the traffic accidents being more likely to happen, and then we give the two causes. Okay, the cause one is that they're tired, and then the other one is that they're in a rush to get home. One of the things you may note here is that we also have the word also, which is an addition word. The When you're actually reading something, you're going to have a mixture of different words in a sentence. Sorry, in a paragraph, you'll oftentimes have list or addition words mixed in with these other patterns. But the reason that this book separates the two out is basically if you have the cause and effect words, it means it's a cause and effect pattern, even if you have words like also. Okay. So a final point on this is that a paragraph or a longer passage sometimes contains one or more pattern, which is what we were just talking about. So this is on page where is this one? This is on page 281. People with more wealth tend to have more power. The fact is apparent in the domination of top government positions by the wealthy. Higher income persons are more likely to feel a strong sense of power. As a result, they are more likely to be politically active, working to keep or increase their power. In contrast, lower income people are more likely to feel powerless to influence major political decisions. Therefore, they are more indifferent to politics and less likely to be involved in political activity. Now, in this case, we have a contrast. We have a contrast pattern of organization, and we can see that in words like in contrast. But there's also a cause-effect pattern, and we can see that in words like as a result and therefore. Okay, so in reality, you're going to see multiple patterns when you're reading out in the quote-unquote real world, but in this book I won't give you paragraphs like that and ask you to identify the pattern. Okay, so we will do more of these activities in class, so if you have any questions, take the time to write them down and bring them with you, and hopefully by the end of class all of this will make more sense to you. All right, take care. See you in class. Bye.